Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 1, Episode 7. First off, I just want to say thank you all for being so patient with me. I know I am super late with this recap, but I'm here. I got my braids back in, so I'm in a super jolly mood, okay? And let's get on into it. I will say that this episode didn't give me a whole lot, so I'm only going to be talking about the parts that I found to be really interesting, okay? But nonetheless, let's just jump on into it. We start off the episode with the Park City fashion show. We already know that it is the big day for Brooks because he is debuting his fashion line. And we know that Brooks just enjoys a scene with his mom at every single turn. I mean, there have to be like 3 scenes total so far that we've seen Meredith without her son right next to her. He is determined to get as much camera time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it drives me nuts, but I digress. It's the big day. All the other ladies show up to support because we all know that it is Meredith and Whitney walking in the show along with Brooks walking, and then Heather, Mary, and Jen all show up to support. The fashion show starts and Whitney is out first. Whitney gave us a cute little walk. It was so funny when she was like, if I were 6 inches taller, this could have been a career. I said, I know that's right. Meredith comes out right after Whitney, and she has a really sexy number, but the only thing is Meredith cannot walk. She was so like stiff and robotic with it. I was like, oh, Meredith, like, move a hip, something, girl. Like, give us something. But nonetheless, she did the best that she could do. Last but not least, Brooks comes on out and he has his models right behind him, and they are all in like uniform. They're all wearing the same tracksuit. So Jen is like, I mean, this is cool and stuff. I mean, I've been wearing this same tracksuit for months, but like, I thought he had some more pieces other than that one tracksuit. You know, one tracksuit does not a collection make. And although somebody could have interpreted that as shade, she was being truthful. And somebody on my Twitter even said, a fashion show with one fashion. And if you are a veteran Real Housewives of Atlanta watcher, then you know where that joke came from. After the fashion show is all over, everybody is congratulating Brooks for his line and saying he's an inspiration. He's eating it up because he loves all that camera time along with all the praise and the compliments. And I get it because I'm the same way too. But I digress. Brooks and Meredith steal a few moments away from everybody else and they call up Seth. Seth was on some other stuff. Instead of just congratulating his son and his wife for walking in a fashion show, he's all snarky, like, oh, you guys look really interesting. And Brooks and Meredith are not here for it at all. You could tell that Meredith was just like so put off by her estranged husband's snark and just being like a real jackass. And Brooks was disappointed because it's like, not only did you not find the time to come and support me in my first ever fashion show, but you're being snarky. And it's like, can't you just say I'm so proud of you? Can't you just say I wish I were there? And Brooks and them just hang up the phone. But, you know, that was the end of that scene. We don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on it, child. Next, we see Heather. She is at her beauty lab. Miss Heather has it going on with that beauty lab, okay? Because I was looking at that site. She got every single procedure known to man. Injectables, fillers, Botox, 20 different kinds of facials. That facial that Whitney got, I was like, oh, I want to get that done. That looked just amazing. But I said, Heather in that lab, and then plus she gives you champagne too. I said, okay, it's a match made in heaven. I'm gonna go. Heather, if I'm ever in Utah, I'm gonna call you, and you better be there. But I digress. So Whitney is there getting her a cute little facial, and they're just talking about the same old stuff, y'all. This scene wasn't really that interesting. Whitney was talking about her dad, how she's hopeful about his recovery, but how the Mormon church still views him as this sinner, and they just can't get past the addiction and how the addiction is his fault. Heather is talking about her woes being a divorcee and how being a divorcee in the Mormon religion is just so awful. The way that people just judge her, the way that some of the other families didn't want their kids to play with her kids since they are products of divorce. Just a mess. I said, girl, oh my goodness. Don't let these people make you feel any sort of way. They are not God. They cannot judge you. They cannot send you to heaven or hell. Whitney gives her practical advice, just saying, Heather, you're going to be strong. Don't worry. Because Heather was also saying that she's grappling with her faith and she doesn't know how she's going to break it to her daughters. And Whitney, being the great cousin that she is, she's just easing Heather's fears and just saying, Heather, you're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. You're a strong woman. I want to see Heather happy. I want to see Heather just not be so down all the time. So we move on to the next scene. Is Jen in her house. She's getting ready for the day, and her fourth assistant comes in to give her some water and some medication. And she's like, oh, you need to eat something too. We find out that Jen is on medication. She started taking medication when her father passed away. She just really fell into a depression. And that's understandable. The loss of a loved one will do that to you. She also talks about how her husband, Sharif, was not supportive about her taking medication. He was telling her, just pray it away. Just pray it away. And she took his advice at first and was like, okay, I'm just going to pray it away. And she started lashing out so bad, not being on the medication, that it drove Sharif away. And they were on the brink of getting a divorce. She says that her family had to stage an intervention for her so that she would take medication and just get the help that she needs. And it was, I think she said, her youngest son who was like, Mom, please, get some help. I don't look down on you. I'm not going to think any less of you if you get medication, but please do, because I love you and I just want you to be happy and be like yourself. And so she says that she did, and she was just so grateful that they did have that intervention with her, because, who knows? They could have been divorced. Family could have been just all messed up because she's upset and lashing out. I appreciated Jen being vulnerable and sharing that with us, but I will say that it also made me look at Sharif even more with a side eye, because it was kind of like, Sharif, you know that your wife is dealing with all of this, and you know that a lot of this is also due to her feeling lonely because you're not home. So why aren't you making more of an effort to be home and spend some more time with your wife? But kudos to Jen for sharing that with us. We also move on to another scene with Meredith, Heather, and Jen. They're having a girls' night out, going out to dinner, and they're catching up like good girlfriends do. Meredith asks Heather how it's going with her and Curtis. Y'all remember Curtis, the guy that Heather had that one night stand with in last week's episode. Heather jokes around about how, it was a fun little short-lived romance, but it just could never be because, Curtis doesn't live in SLC. He splits his time between Atlanta and LA, so it just wasn't going to work. So Heather asks Meredith about her marriage, and she asks about the separation and is joking around about, well, whose fault was it for the separation in the first place? And Meredith is giving very stale, very stiff, very politically correct answers. She doesn't really want to talk about it at all. She just wants to give as little information as she possibly can. Jen is giving Meredith the side eye because it's like, girl, Now, I've heard a lot of rumblings about your separation. Like, you can tell us a little bit more than that. And she also makes note that Meredith is talking to them like she's a politician talking to their constituents. She gave a very robotic answer about the coming and goings of her separation. But Jen just lets her know to be open with them and just talk to them. And then she shares again how she feels lonely since Sharif is never home. And her and Meredith do have quite a few parallels in their marriages because they are both with men who seem to prioritize work over them. So we move on to Whitney, and she is having a cute little family fun day with her dad and her kids, and they are going to one of those like trampoline jumpy parks. Like, that was just so cute. You just like jump around and they're all jumping and having fun. And Whitney's dad was so funny. He was just jumping and having the time of his life, but then he was getting so winded because when Whitney pulled him over to talk, he was out of breath. He was like, oh my God, like, I'm 60 years old, but I need to get in fighting shape. Like, that took the wind out of me. That was just so funny. I like Whitney's dad a lot. He seems like a really nice guy. So they're talking, and Whitney's dad makes an alarming admission that he wants to leave the sober living house that he's been at for 21 days. And he thinks that he is ready to go back and function out in the real world. He's like, I talked to my therapist. I'm feeling good. And Whitney's like, Dad, we've been through this before. You have relapsed many times. I can't have this again. Whitney's trying to let her dad know, like, Dad, I think you need to stay the full 90 days. I don't think that you're ready yet. Please just see it all the way through. And her dad is just stubborn. He's not trying to hear it. He is ready to go. Whitney's dad basically tells her he's ready to start making some money again. Because remember, he owned hair salons in Utah, and he also owned some hair care products too. So he was a self-made millionaire. So he's ready to get back to that coin. And Whitney's like, Dad, this is not a great idea. Please just stay in that sober living facility for the remainder. 21 days is a little too early to be trying to bust out of that sober living facility. Whitney's dad, I'm rooting for you. I want the best for you. I hope that you really grab your recovery by the balls. But in all seriousness, please listen to your daughter. Think of your grandkids. Just think of yourself. Don't leave that sober living until those 90 days are done. Then we get on to Heather. Heather's at home. Her oldest daughter, I think her name is Georgia, is like creating a little poster because the dance is coming up at their school. I think the dance is like one of those, it's like the opposite where the girl asks the guy, yeah. And she's making a poster saying, will you go to the dance with me? And Heather's helping her with the poster, and Heather is just gushing over the fact that she is so happy for her daughter. She is happy that her daughter has met a really nice guy who seems to really like and just care about her. And she's like, that was more than what I was experiencing when I was her age. Because remember, Heather was just so sheltered. She wasn't really talking to any guys, didn't have a boyfriend, much less, a serious boyfriend. But she's just happy for her daughter, happy that her daughter's having a really normal experience as a teen. Then Heather's other two daughters come in, and she sits them down, and she just wants to share what's been on her heart. She lets them know that she has been like struggling with her faith. She just lets them know how the Mormon church has made her feel since getting divorced. And she starts crying, and she lets them know that she doesn't want how she's feeling to sway their decisions on their own faith. And can I tell you something? Heather has some of the sweetest kids I have ever seen on reality TV. Her girls seem very grounded. They seem just like lovely girls. The way they comforted Heather, they were like, girl, we're going to go out and enjoy our lives, and we're also going to make sound decisions. Like, they were just letting her know it's going to be okay, Mom. We love you. Please don't feel bad. Whatever you decide on, we are here with you and we are here for you. And the way they just embraced her, I said, Heather, stop being hard on yourself. You have done a wonderful job raising those girls. They are fabulous. So now we move on to the last scene of the episode, and that is Whitney and Jen. They are over at Whitney's house. You already know when it's Whitney, it's going to be a good time. Whitney is like, okay, girl, I'm going to show you some moves on the pole. And Whitney does all these tricks and she's twirling. I was like, okay, I want to take pole dancing classes immediately. And it's so funny because before COVID hit, I had actually looked at several places around me to like sign up for a class, and then COVID hit and they canceled the class. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. But trust me, I think the school that I wanted to go to anyway is back open now. So I think I'll be signing up very soon. But Whitney killed it. She tells Jen to get on the pole, and Jen didn't look too bad. Jen was twirling around. She was doing a good job. I mean, not as good as Whitney, but she did a little something. So Whitney and Jen take a break and they start talking about marriage. Whitney goes on to ask Jen about how she copes with Sharif always being gone. And she's like, well, girl, I got my Hitachi magic wand that gets me through the days. And Whitney's laughing, and I was kind of like, again, that's unacceptable that your husband is just never home like that. We would have some serious, serious problems. I'm glad that Jen got her vibrator on deck, but sometimes you just want the real thing, and we would have some serious issues if I wasn't getting it on a regular basis because my husband was gone 24/7. So then Jen asks Whitney how her marriage is doing, and Whitney's like, oh, it's doing great. She jokes about how she had to get her husband out of his sexual shell because he was this like prudish Mormon boy, and now she got him like ready to go. I said, I know that's right. She also tells Jen that she has sex 4 to 5 times a week because Jen asked her how often she's getting it. And it was funny because Jen was like, oh, 4 to 5 times a week. Oh, that's regular. And I was like, girl, are you getting 4 to 5 nights a week with Sharif? He's never home. Are you even getting once a month with the man? Because he's never home. So I said, what are you talking about? 4 to 5 times a week is regular. Then the topic of Meredith and her separation with Seth comes up in conversation. And Jen is throwing out all sorts of subliminals. And Whitney's like, what do you mean, Jen? Like, what are you trying to say? Because Jen is like, if you're not getting it at home, then, you can't be stupid to think that somebody's not getting it somewhere else or looking elsewhere. And Whitney's like, what are you alluding to? And Jen keeps going, more and more. And Whitney's like, Jen, are you saying that one of them is seeing somebody else? Like, what are you saying? And Jen is being coy. That's one thing I hate. I hate when somebody is coy. If you're going to tell somebody else's business, do it with your chest. Don't try to drop little nuggets and then try to play coy and play dumb when somebody calls you out on it and asks you, like, what are you saying? Whitney lets it be known in her confessional that Jen is throwing around some serious allegations and she needs to come correct with what she's saying. It better be true, or she needs to zip it if it's just hearsay and gossip, because that could really ruin somebody's reputation and their marriage. So she's just kind of like, what is Jen really trying to say? We see Jen being pressed about it in her confessional by one of the producers, and the producers are like, Jen, what exactly are you trying to say about Meredith and Seth's marriage? And Jen ends up telling a story about how she and Meredith were in New York City a while back for Meredith's trunk show, and there was this guy at the trunk show who kept calling Meredith the love of his life. They were laughing, and he was all over her, but also like towards the end of the night, he offered to take Meredith, I guess, back upstairs to her hotel room or whatever have you, and so they left together. So Jen pretty much alluded to Meredith creeping on the side. Jen, girl, you gonna have a lot of explaining to do at this reunion. Baby, I hope you are ready. Those reunions are no joke. And Meredith is about to be pissed at you because you sitting here accidentally revealing that Meredith was separated in the first place to people when she told you not to say anything. Now you sitting up here spreading her tea that she was creeping with somebody else. I said, girl, that is my recap for the episode. You already know what to do. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all for episode 8. Bye, guys.